Welcome, everybody, back to a new episode of Let's Set the Tone and another roundtable discussion. Now, first of all, going to be spoilers. Going to be a lot of spoilers. So if you have not seen the last episode of The Last of Us season 2, there's your warning because it's going to be full on spoilers, controversial hot takes. I'm sure plenty. Um, but that's what we're here to do. We're going to talk about The Last of Us season 2. So to kick it off here, again, of course, I wanted to gather, my peoples to talk about this because as always, I feel like that there's definitely degrees of things we do or don't agree with, and that's why these are fun to do. So also what makes it interesting is I think at least one of us, and rumors are maybe two of us, have not actually played the game. But hey, we've all at least seen the show, so some of us can at least kind of compare back and forth. So, there's definitely a lot of back and forth, I think, on the internet about all of these sort of things, the changes, the what's missing in the episodes, what's not. So without further ado, bring on the guests as always. First, of course, would be Drastin from Seven Dungeons, is once again back to chit chat. Hello, Drastin of Seven Dungeons.
Hello.
Welcome, my buddy. So, and then next up, of course, the one and only Josh of Half Ass Beer Review, or as I call him, HABR Josh, or just Half Ass.
Hello.
Welcome. And then, of course, none other than the man, the myth, the legend, the dude 7'9" is also here to talk.
What's up, y'all? What's going on?
What up, homie?
Welcome. So thank you guys for doing another roundtable here. This is I just TV, and we've talked about this numerous times, I think, on the show, and as collectively, TV has, especially I think since the pandemic, continued to just get much better, right? Bigger mediums to the point now we're seeing adaptations like video games turn into actually viable media and other platforms. It would usually a lot of controversy, of course, but uh, um, but hey, it's nice to have somebody like HBO, I think, be able to kind of take the reins on things like that because, as we all know, at least maybe that's also a matter of opinion, but in my opinion, HBO for many decades has done some of the best TV out there, like movie quality TV. And now that they're getting things like video game adaptations or even like the Watchmen that they did as well. So,
Yeah.
but so first of all, uh, The Last of Us season 2. So, uh, before we jump into everybody's thoughts on season 2, I would like to just kind of go around real quick and maybe see comparatively what you all each individually think of this season versus season 1. So we'll start with Drastin.
Um, I liked this season. I liked the first season better, and I think that's a whole discussion point in and of itself. I also enjoyed the first game more than I did the second game. So I think that falls in line. And I would like to say that doesn't, I feel like that didn't really affect that decision of liking the first game better than the second one. I just thought in the first one the storytelling was a bit better. I don't know. It had more of those key moments, but I didn't think this was a bad season. I enjoyed some of the backstory, and I'm sure we'll get into that, which me and you talked about just the other night, um, which kind of compared to one of the backstory things we got in the first season as well. But overall, it was okay. Um, it did to me. It kind of droned it on a little bit in some of the parts, but I think that had to do with some of the people in the show.
All right, fair enough. All right, Josh, what about you compared to season 1? How you feeling about this?
I liked season one, I think, a lot better. I liked and from season one, I really liked how they built the characters and how they built the relationship between Joel and Ellie. Um, I thought the story carried a lot better in season one. Um, Yeah, I don't want to say too much because I know we're going to talk more about season 2, but I season 2 could have been a lot better, I think, in my personal opinion.
Okay. Right out the gates there, dude.
Actually, I agree with these guys. I do think the first season was a better season, just because of the pacing and the way it told its story. But I can't help but wonder if that has to do with the fact that the first game was focused mostly on Ellie and Joel, their journey across the country, and the relationship they built, and then ultimately the controversial ending. We didn't have a whole lot of characters and a bunch of other sub storylines to really contend with. So it was a much more focused story that the first game was. So I think that's probably a little bit easier. It was more translatable to TV. Whereas season 2, well, let me go first of all. Game 2, I really like Game 2. I thought Game 2 was really, really, really good. I really loved The Last of Us Part 2. I thought the ending was really, really thought provoking. I thought it was hard hitting. Obviously, the events that lead up to the ending of a part of Game 2 are just as heartbreaking. But you had a lot of great characters. You had a lot of really good fleshed out characters that you were able to discover and play as, especially play as, through the second game, and that made for a much more a better experience in terms of story and kind of making connections, relatable connections with all the characters, not just Joe and Ellie, but even Abby and some of the other people that you meet along the way. But I do think season 2, obviously, we can tell that season 2 and season 3 are both going to be the second game. And they did as best as they could to tell Joel and Ellie's story, to make sure it was impactful, to make sure when things did happen, it meant something. And I think they did a good job later on in the season to really drive home their relationship after the fact and why it was so devastating for Ellie, what happens. But I do feel like the issue with this season was we don't know crap about Abby other than her father was in the hospital. We don't know. And again, Tony, you and I talked about this. I think that has to do with the fact that we're reaching a wider audience than just the people that have played the games, more than people that aren't even gamers. They're trying to make a story for everyone to be able to follow. And I don't want to say they're dumbing it down, but the way that they're presenting it is kind of dumbing it down a little bit, because they're like, okay, look, we want to establish that so and so is good, so and so is bad, and really drive that point home, which I feel like kind of works against the story itself. But we'll get into that a little bit later on. But I agree with these guys. I think season 1 was really, really good, was better. Season 2 is good, but I honestly, I don't know if I can rate the second game's translation to screen until we see season 3 to see how that whole story plays out across 2 seasons.
Yeah. I fall into a lot of that same. I think that's almost a no-brainer at this point, right? I definitely feel like season 1. Well, let's be honest. Season 1 had more episodes too, right? So whether it, like, Drassen said, it kind of droned on in this, but it only got 7 episodes, and even I was like, "That's it." Like, even though the story might be a little bit more open in a lot of ways, like just like The Last of Us 2, like the game was more open world at this point. You had more areas and things in the nature. It still funneled you where it needed to, but like it there's definitely some elements that I feel like are missing in this that could have extended it more, honestly. And I really enjoy the characters in the world. So like for me, having only 7 episodes is kind of like, what the fuck? Like that's not enough for me. I kind of want more or wanted more.
Well, I think that's why it felt like it droned on a bit. It was just because like it felt like nothing happened, right? Like
it felt like the stuff that happened took like 2 or 3 episodes, and you were like, okay, so that's it. So nothing. Yeah, and I think, and I get why they're doing that, because they're trying to spread it out for clearly the 2 storylines, much like the game. So I understand that, but like it's almost like they should have called it season 2 part 1, or something like that.
Right.
Honestly,
Yeah.
like instead of like doing a whole other season 3, because like one of my biggest complaints with like Disney Plus shows, for instance, is that you watch a Disney Plus series and one's 34 minutes, and it's 46, and it's 55, and then it's back down to 32. It's like, then chop it up differently and make it more consistent. Like, I hate when like either do 50 minutes or more for everything, or make them all close to being even. I hate that up and down, because I'm a binge watcher. So if I have to wait another week to watch something and claw my brain waiting for it, I don't
Right.
want that episode to be, oh, it's 34 minutes because you got 57 last week. Like, fuck you. Figure it out. Get it,
Yeah.
do it differing in editing. You can figure it out. So 7 episodes definitely was a bummer for me. But other than that, yeah, I definitely feel like I totally understand that for everybody. And it seems like even me, you know, the first episode or the first season was much better than the second one. I really liked what we got for this. And my, like I said, my complaints, we'll talk about those here in a few minutes, but it's quite arbitrary, and I think would fix that problem for me. So, okay, awesome. So, let me ask this. So, first of all, Josh, I know you haven't played these games at all, correct?
Nope, have not.
Okay,
No.
okay, which is great because that gives you a different perspective. Two, Drastin, so you didn't complete the first game I've been hearing, or the second game.
So
excuse me.
so it's actually kind of funny. Where the show stopped is where I stopped playing it. Like pretty much right there. And not from, don't get me wrong, I'm not one of those like bros that are like, oh my, yeah, it wasn't that. Something else came up and I was like, oh, you know, squirrel. And I just never came back to it. In fact, it is still installed on my PS5 and I left it there so that like I do remember to finish it at some point, and I really need to. So it was really convenient that it ended where it ended because I'm like, oh, they're just following my progress as a game. So that's cool. Thanks, HBO. Like, so
okay. So that means then at that point, after the next season, you're not involved in the roundtable check. All right. So
actually, so what? It'll be out like next year sometime. So maybe
I would imagine.
So maybe I'll get it in by then. I don't know. Stop coming out with games like Expedition 33, and I'll have more time.
Right. Or stop playing games all the
Wow. Yeah.
Right. All right. So now that we've kind of done that, I do want to just specifically kind of jump in and talk about, you know, your thoughts about season 2 generally. So we'll go back around again. So Drastin, let's hear it. Let's hear your thoughts on season 2, which we've already got. So everybody buckle up.
Yeah. So I want to harken back to does anybody remember when Ian Malcolm was driving around in Jurassic Park and he was given the tour and he says, eventually there's going to be dinosaurs in your dinosaur park, right? That's like, that's how I felt about season 2. I was like, eventually there's going to be zombies in your zombie based game, right? Like, where's the zombies? We got one freaking like city raid. And then it was like, oh, I guess we're done. Let's go tell the stories. And then we just like, you're in Wyoming or whatever. And then like, oh, here's episode 3. Now we're in Seattle. We're there. You know, like nothing else happened. There some of the good character. I said, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I'm going to throw it out here into the universe. I don't care for the person who plays whatever her name is.
Bella Ramsey as Ellie.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Thanks for that. To me, she's very wooden as an actress. I think that helps. Like, I think back to the games and when it cuts into a cutscene and you see that emotion on Ellie's face in every scene. In every scene, you can tell she's struggling with different things when she's in there. And when she's mad, you can tell she's mad. And I don't get that emotion construed on her face. It almost looks like she's holding in a fart or getting ready to tell a joke at all times. And, you know, like... like... You look on the side over here where she's at, and you can see what I just said. It looks like she's getting ready to say, "You smell that?" Like, I don't know why. I'm sure she's great. Maybe it's bad directing or whatever. Man. But like that made it very hard for me to watch because. And I'm taking out like what happened because I knew what happened to Joel. I knew what happened with that situation. So we were all that had played the game waiting for that particular situation. But after that, when it's like, I have no one else to keep eyes on except for her and the story that's going on, I'm just like, oh my God, please stop. Like cut to someone else. Can I watch someone else's story? And that like, I think hurt season 2 for me a lot.
First of all, you about killed me over here. I had to mute my mic because I was starting. Jesus. Okay. Yeah, I definitely can understand that, and I'll jump into that more in a minute on my thoughts on that too, as well. But all right, let's Josh swing away.
All right. Hey, so let's we're talking about Kill Bill, or no, I'm sorry, we're talking about The Last of Us season 2, a revenge story, I suppose. It's strange to me. So to touch on what Britt said, I was checked out after episode 2, right when Joel died. We already talked about like how we felt, how I thought that losing Pedro was like a big deal, and I'm not, and I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be good, right? Like I wanted her to like take over and have it be really awesome. But we've had to watch every other person that she's on screen with outact her through this entire series. And don't get me wrong, there's moments where she's interacting with people and I think, oh, I'm like, oh, this is really good. Like when she's watching Joel die, or there was another scene where she was talking to who's going to be the baby daddy? What's his name?
Jesse.
Jesse. There we go. and their interaction, I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. But then when they're like out in the alley and he's making his assumptions, it's like I'm like, what is she doing? Like I don't know. And also I believe that Dina is in love with her, but I don't get any of that from Ellie. Like I just get like a stone wall. I'm like, do you not feel anything? Like, are you forcing this? Like this doesn't even seem real. It's really strange. Like and honestly, I think the only thing I think the story itself is good, is great. Actually, I really think that what they have is awesome. It's just being executed very poorly. It's like this big thing happens, and it's man. My two favorite episodes were episode 2, and then the episode about how Joel came to be who he is from his experience with his father. 6, yeah. And the other day, I asked you guys. I didn't even realize. I'm like, was episode 7 the last one?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't believe.
Right,
you know what I mean? Like it kind of ended in a big way, I guess. But I don't think it really did. Like I don't know. There's no. I don't care for a lot of. I don't care for the main character. I don't care for some of the other characters. There's a few characters I care about. Like Dina's holding her own. You know what I mean? I'd like to see more with Tommy. I feel like his stint was very shallow. The infected, where are they? You know what I mean? Like Drastin said, we got the big assault, we got the subway scene, and then we got like the smart ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like I get it. It's people too. You know what I mean? And Tone, I believe you told me before, that's kind of the basis of the game is that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it's like again, I'll bring up Kill Bill. It's like she was on this like revenge tear, and you're learning about every single character that is happening to. You know what I mean? And here we don't really have anything. And honestly, after the blackout at that last episode, it could they could be font that just says she dead, and I never have to watch another episode of this again.
Okay, all right.
There's just nothing pulling me back into the show right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's okay. That's fair. And I do know that the part, well, I can understand why it feels anticlimactic when it came to the 7 episodes, because it was. I think part of it is just short, and because, as Drastin said, it felt like there wasn't enough going on in the season to warrant an end, right? But in the game, if I remember correctly, that's where it does end and switch, right, guys? Like that's where we move on to more of Abby's background, correct?
It's getting pretty close to that point where I'm on another playthrough of that game, so it's just like,
damn.
Yeah, no, that's it's. But anyways, continue.
Mike actually makes a really good statement there in chat.
Yeah, I'm gonna come around to chat here in a moment. But yeah, I was kind of previewing that as well. So, all right, Brent, why don't you kind of give your thoughts here?
Well, I'll just say right away, I don't hate Bella Ramsey. I am not against her performance. In fact, I think in most of the scenes where she's required to be good, she is good. Joel dies. We have several scenes where the scene where Joel tells her the truth. She's very great in that scene. She's great in the scene where Joel's little plot or explanation to Catherine O'Hara's character about what happened to Eugene. I thought Bella Ramsey was really, really good in that scene. She's had several good scenes that you guys mentioned with Jesse. And then the two people that she kills in the last episode, how she's trying to come to terms with what just happened. I thought she did a really, really good job there. So in all the main scenes that requires her to be a big part of that scene, I think she's crushed it. So, I mean, the little scenes that you guys are talking about, maybe I wasn't paying attention to it as much, or maybe the other character is designed to take control of that scene because they're delivering certain plot points. I'm not saying you guys are wrong. I'm just saying I didn't have that sort of like, man, she's a terrible actress. But I mean, like I said, in the scenes where she's required to like really carry a scene, I think she's been very, very good. So I haven't had too many issues with her performance or anyone's performances really. I think everyone's actually been pretty solid. In terms of like the infected not being a lot there, I agree with you guys too, because we saw so much in the first one, and I can't help but wonder, and maybe you guys can see this as well. If you think about the movies, and again, this goes back to what Tone said, how the story is the focus here, and it did remind me a little bit. I was like, God, am I watching like Godzilla or am I watching War of the Worlds again, where all the good stuff is happening elsewhere and we're just getting like what's going on with these characters while the world around them is like falling apart. And that's kind of the vibe that I got too, because like there were times, like you said, we get the one big rush on Jackson, we get the iconic subway scene, and then the special the super unique ones that they come to at the end. But we never really got to see any more of them. But at the same time, I don't really think that's the focus. That's what people are dealing with. This isn't like Walking Dead where there's constantly zombies and we're dealing with that. Like there's a lot of different character arcs that we have to explore here. And that's why I think the focus is mostly on those as they deal with the infected around them. So, but that could be a creative choice by the director. I don't really know. But, that's why I just can't help but wonder, because we do have so many characters that we need to start building up and get the audience to give a shit about. And like, Tone, when you and I talk, like, yeah, it's awesome to have all those sequences when you're playing the game. Like, oh, let's go in here and blow away a bunch of infected, deal with the clickers and the stalkers and all that stuff. And that part is there because I'm playing a video game. I need that action. But when it comes to a TV show, I don't necessarily need that, me personally. I mean, I like seeing some of these enemies that I'm like, oh, yeah, there's a clicker. And that stuff is great. But I just like the focus on this, right? Because we do have some big characters that we're trying to explore in 7 episodes, which, again, I agree with you guys. It's just too short to pull that off.
All right, fair enough. Sorry, I'm still coughing because Drastin almost killed me. Great. So I see a mix of a lot of these things here, and I kind of agree in a lot sense. So for me, I definitely feel like Bella Ramsey pulls me out of the show pretty consistently.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I know Drastin was even hinting to the online crowd out there. Yeah, it's a mess out there. For me, it does. I don't think that she's the best fit for this role. I think that you are also right, Brent, that there's times when she there's been some great scenes like you talk about with Eugene. I do think that she did a great job fake crying, and I definitely felt like she had more emotion in there. There's a lot of things there going on that I did like. There's been a couple other where she was just fine, but I think it just, even though that maybe there's times we're trying to focus on different characters and she's still in the same scene, it just doesn't feel like she's there. And like there are moments when like the pans to her, like I remember when Dina and her are on the one rooftop and they're scouring everything. It's just like I looked at Britt and I'm like, does she even care that she's in this scene? Like, I don't know, it just doesn't like translate well to me. And
Mm-hmm.
and maybe she's just not good at conveying emotion on her face. I think that's a big thing for me, is like, and it's because of the video game in a lot of ways. So I think there is perspective on some of the things that you said from someone that did play, that have an expectation of the character and a certain like vibe, maybe even if it's not necessarily look. I just don't always fully get this vibe from her very well. Because Ellie in the game, of course, we had Ashley Johnson voicing her. Like
Mm-hmm.
she voice acted her, and I feel like we got way more emotion out of that character
Mm-hmm.
in a video game than we're getting out of Bella Ramsey. So I'm already like looking at a different expectation. Regardless if it's for a general audience or not, I just still don't like. There's a lot of people out there that you could have interviewed, and I think the fact that they had the young girl from Game of Thrones that got everybody excited that 1 or 2 episodes,
Mm-hmm.
that's what this was, you know. And I think Pedro is kind of the same way, and we'll get to that in a moment too. But for me, the big thing that I found was one of my biggest detractors for this, and I said it's very arbitrary, but you guys have hinted to it, is the lack of infected. Because while I do agree certain movies like Godzilla 2014, you know, that's a big thing in a big city. Everybody's not gonna be involved in that moment.
Sure.
But this is a lot different. And again, my expectations from the game, so like I'm expecting to see more of them.
Mhm.
You know, even though it's been X amount of years, like they should be, you know, littered a little bit more, I feel like. Like, here's what I wanted more of. It wasn't just the infected, but even though it's a video game going into TV series, I certainly think that they could have done at least one episode or half parts of episode where they show them slinking around more stealthy instead of little snippets of it in this
Right.
episode. Like there's some great moments in that game where you're doing that. And like, I don't want them to go around and like, oh, look at this. It's a Molotov cocktail and pick stuff up. They don't have to always do that stuff. Member berries are great, but like if they would have added more moments instead of just like the 1 or 2 that we got in the season, they could have stretched out another 2 episodes of that if done really well. Like
Right.
that's it. Even though that the focus is the people, you know, in this season, and I understand that it's almost like that the infected don't exist most of the time. It's like that's part of what makes that world unique is that they technically do,
Right.
you know. So I really wanted a lot more of that. I definitely feel like the hospital chase scene was cut a little too short, maybe again because I want more of that slinking around and stealthiness. I think they could listen, if they could pull it off in Andor when she's running around that hospital, they certainly could have done it in Last of Us.
Yeah.
You know, to make it a little bit more interesting. That would have grabbed me a little bit more. So that's really my big stuff. Like I think more infected would have been great. And I definitely think like conveying more of what made the game so good, which is the stealthiness, not necessarily always the combativeness either.
Yeah.
So
well, they did introduce like the smart ones, right?
The stalkers,
yes.
Yeah, real
the
early.
stalkers.
And then
And
they
that
did
was it.
nothing with
Maybe
them.
one other time. Yeah.
Oh, dude, there's a couple of scenes we'll talk about it too. That like they had a scene in the show, and you're like, why is this even here?
Yeah.
Like the last episode is the biggest culprit. But anyways, good continue.
Yeah. So, well, I want to go to the chat for a moment because I know we've been getting some good comments up here. So I do want to read. So Mike out here said, one of the big things about the second game that I felt in the heartstrings, I'm going to try and read this because I got it close, my eyes, right, was Ellie's deep need for revenge in Joel's death. We saw how she changed from the innocent in the first game. The show makes her out to be a clown. Dina had more urgency about it. I can kind of see that as well. Okay, that's fair.
Actually, and I'm actually going to use Mike's point there because I think he does make a really good point, and I think this might also have something to do with the scenes where you guys are saying she doesn't have like a really good scene where you're just like, what is she doing in the scene? Like, what is Bella Ramsey doing here? I can't help but wonder, honestly, man, if again, and I'm not giving her a free pass for anything. I'm just saying, like, I can't help but wonder if this character has been written slightly different for TV, because Mike just mentioned, you know, she goes from this being innocent to a revenge-filled hatred. I mean, she's a fucking killing machine in the game. Mm-hmm. She is running hell bent on revenge without a care in the world. In this show, every time she does something to kind of like indicate, okay, here we're going full on psycho Ellie, they draw up the scene to where she feels remorseful, like, oh shit, that was a mistake, like she's clumsy. Where in the game, she's more methodical and she's more driven and like everything.
Learned from the best.
Yeah, she learned from the best. And in this show, like, and again, if this is the case, this isn't so much Bella Ramsey's part. It's just the way the character's written, where you're in these scenes where it's like, this just doesn't feel like what I'm used to from Ellie in the game. You know, like Mike's right. There's several scenes where she just comes across as clumsy, where in the game, she is a flat out killer. And you're just like, it's just like, again, I can't help if this goes back to the whole, we're really trying to separate the good guys from the bad guys. And, you know, we can't have Ellie being a fucking stone cold killer. She's got to feel bad and remorseful. And the same, we'll talk about the Joel thing that I could not stand, even though I liked the 6th episode. I hated the decision that was made there, but I just can't help but wonder if like these characters are being sort of changed compared to what we appreciated in the game in order to attract to a wider audience, but to make things clear with like the lines in the dirt, like who's where.
And that's that's a whole big conversation too that we can always get into, right? So
because like what it felt like to me is there's been a time jump, right? And we got that in the game, right? We had young Ellie, and then you play the second game and you've got this early adult Ellie. And some of it's just casting that, Bella Ramsey just does not look her age. Some people look younger, and she still comes off as the kid. And in the game, you're right. Like, she's a badass. She's pissed. She's buff. She's, like, she's the fighter. She wants to be out on the front line. And the way they've written this character is she's still goofy and making jokes and doing all this. And it's like, you're kind of pissed all the time. Like, it was weird to me.
Yeah. And I think that kind of goes. So Britt actually said that she said she has moments. So Bella Ramsey has moments of good acting, but she doesn't feel connected or invested in her at all. And keep in mind, neither her or Josh have played the game. So objectively at that point. So, and then Jeff, hey, Jeff, welcome to the horror. Get dialed up at all, which again comes back around kind of back. No, it really didn't. Actually got dialed down. that was definitely part of the issue there too.
And see, in season 1, at least you had David. Like, you had horror. You didn't need the infected. You had David, who was a fucking creepy ass villain human. And you're like, okay, that's still scary how he's operating his town. So you have horror, but not in the element of like, infected, but at least some of these characters were scary. Now, we know Isaac Dixon is kind of a scary character in the game, but his character doesn't really come into things until we're going to see in season 3. So when you don't have a human threat to go along with the infected threat or the zombie threat, then all of a sudden the horror element and the sense of urgency and everything you got factions going around everywhere, but they're basically like stormtroopers so far in the game. There's like not a viable threat.
Kind of what Mike is saying in the chat right now too.
Yeah.
Like,
and so it's just like, I feel like, they are missing stuff, but they're missing that human villain, like the really bad guy that's just as scary as the infected.
And I think they're trying to get there, but again, I don't know if it's translated well. So yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. Thank you, chat, for a lot of your thoughts as well too. We're going to move on a little bit here too. So let's see. So goodness, see, Drassen, you literally almost killed me.
Well, doing the Lord's work over here.
Awful. I don't know why I can't stop coughing, but here we are. So, I guess at that point, like, I was going to kind of ask, like, as far as from the game sense for, those of us that played it, are we pretty much, sounds like we're kind of agreeing, like maybe a little bit more effective would have worked. I mean, I know, Brent, you were kind of saying it seems like, hey, we want to focus more on the people. We got bigger stories to be told, things of that nature too. But do you think that more elements of those, or things even that I proposed with like slinking around for half episode, doing some stealthy shit and some cool combat would, I feel like spruce it up a little bit as well too.
I feel like there were a couple scenes in the show where I used stealth in the game in those particular scenes where I was like, oh man, that was a cool way. For example, the subway sequence in the red lit sunway, that is an iconic scene from the game. When you have is it Fedra or is it Wolf that's chasing? It's Wolf that's chasing them.
Wolf,
and they have the clickers down there, and they just basically have the scene play out where the clickers just come in and kill all the Fedra guys, which is fine. But like in the game, you walk into this area and the Fedra guys are looking around for you, and you hear, and the clickers are there as well, but they're not engaged with one another yet. And so you're like, shit, how do I get through this room without triggering an all-out assault from one party or the other? Right. And that's where you're just like, okay, I'm going to move quietly here and there. But then you're like, oh, I've got a bottle here. And you throw the bottle over by the wolf guys, and the clickers all attack. And now you've created your distraction to stealthily make your way through the subway to keep them off you. And then basically by the time the attack is done, there's like one or two wolf guys left and maybe a clicker. And you've used stealth. So you've put some thought into this scene where you're just like, oh, that's a cool idea to kind of use the clickers against the wolf, and whatnot. But that sort of stuff, it could have been done in some of these scenes for sure. Like, and like I said, I would love to have had more infected. I'm with you guys. I love the infected. I think they're an important part of the story for sure. I just think the biggest issue right now is they had 7 episodes to tell the story of 2 characters and still have to do another character and a whole other faction in another season. I just think it's really difficult for them to translate this second game to screen because there's so much more going on compared to the first game.
How would they only get 7 episodes after the success of the first season?
I mean, again, if it's only 7 episodes, yeah, I mean, that is short. I agree 100%.
Right,
But
yeah.
you can't come out with 16 episodes and do like the whole game. I mean, the production
Right.
costs, actors like, Pedro Pascal, he's doing more movies than Nick Cage, I swear, in a year. Like, he's in so many movies. So it's difficult to get all these people lined up to just show up and like, hey, I'll do a TV show for 6-7 months. They got to do certain amount of episodes, get those people back to work, do the other obligations, and then come back and shoot like the remaining season. I mean, it's the you have 2 choices: 7 episodes now, and we don't even know how long it's going to be till season 3. Have they even indicated? Have they shot season 3 yet? Or
I don't think they have yet.
Or do we run the risk of them saying, "Well, hey, look, Last of Us came out in 2022. Whenever the show came out, we'll see in 2027, 2028 once we finally have time to shoot this massive season." So I think it's just a factor of like budgeting. I'm sure probably plays a part in it. It was 2 years between the two. Mike says 2 years between the two. If they tried doing this full season, it would have been 4 years. And then at that point, people start getting pissed. Like, where's the show at, dude? I think it's a balancing act. I think it's difficult to have all these actors, and they get prolific actors everywhere. That's what I love about this show. Any of these characters that are kind of new that are just either mentioned in the game, like Catherine O'Hara's character or Joe Pantoliano's character, when they show up, they get like really, really good actors to show up and do these parts. But it's probably just difficult for them to get everyone lined up. And again, to shoot a full season, to convey everything that was in the second game, I think that's like 16, 17 episodes, which I just don't think is doable for a production of this size.
Okay. Yeah. I would say the only other thing for me that the game changed that I wasn't fully, I know we talked about it a little bit before, was just I like the attack on Jackson. I thought it was good for story.
It's the action you want.
Right. So I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
What I don't like is how they did it in the middle of Joe getting used as a fucking golfing green.
Yeah.
It took away from the power of that scene.
I felt it did, honestly. Yeah, I definitely felt it did. And I'm guessing part of the reason they did that is for the people like reacted like Brittany, who wanted to head to HBO headquarters and burn the building down because they didn't know it was coming.
Krista as well.
Right. So I can get it, but it does take away, in my opinion, the shock and the
that was a weird choice. It was a weird choice.
It was a very weird choice. So all right, well, I want to go around again with everybody and just talk about maybe a favorite episode or moment from the series as well. So of course we'll start back at the top with you, Dresden.
Season 1 was great. With the clickers and all the and that's my favorite episode. I would say probably for me it would be episode 6, that kind of getting the backstory of what happened with Joel and Ellie and some of those conversations. And I was telling Tone because I messaged him after that, because we get to see Joey Pants, and that was a surprise. I was
a big
not
surprise. I was really excited when I saw him. Yeah.
And I was kind of disappointed because I looked at my wife and I'm like, it's Joey Pants. And she's like, who? And I'm like, but she was very checked out after episode 2. She's like, I'm actually done watching this show.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
But
it's that red wedding effect.
Yeah,
it really is. But the parallels to me was episode 6 was that Bob story we got in season 1 with
Nick Offerman with Frank.
Nick Offerman. Yeah. I say Bob. As you can tell, I'm very terrible with names. Yeah. Visit me in the old folks home when I have Alzheimer's, please. But it was that. Did you need that episode? No. Was it good? Yes. I thought it was good. Could it have been better? We've talked about that, but it was nice seeing the other side of things.
Mm-hmm.
I was just free, even though I knew kind of the stuff. when he brought the body back and he's like telling the story to Catherine O'Hara's character and all that, and she's like, "That's not what happened. I wanted to punch her in the face."
Mhm.
Like, it reminded me of that 10-year-old kid when you're like, "Don't tell mom we did this," like, and then the first thing, as soon as they open their mouth, she's like, "That's not what happened." And I was just like, "Oh my God. Oh my God."
That's funny.
Because I, Joel dealt with a lot of internal demons, and he was no saint, for sure. But like, he had to do what he had to do with the situation to keep everyone else safe, and then she just ruined it. But yeah, that was my favorite episode of this season.
Right on. Okay. Josh?
I'm gonna have to agree. I think episode 6 was probably my favorite. Just that the building up of you seeing how Joel's dad was with him, and like that whole scene where he sits him down and he opens a beer and he gives it to him, kind of thing, and just like, and that, well, I want you to do better. And then you realizing like, oh, he did these bad things to help Ellie, and now he wants her to be better, kind of thing. I really like the whole full circle of that.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's about all I have to say about that. Yeah, I don't really know, and it's I I feel like from what I've heard from you guys about these characters is they're kind of nerfed, right? Like they're like a little bit softer, because you said they're ruthless, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
they're not as gray area as they are in the game. Like they're really trying hard to, and like I said, I'm going to get into it after you go with yours. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
there's a
Yeah. Yeah.
couple of scenes where they changed what happens in the game, or they added something that is there to, I feel like, kind of like put each person more in either a better light or a worse light.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah. I'll touch on that with you then when you talk about your stuff. Yeah. But I think episode 6 was a really good episode. I liked the first 2 episodes, really. I thought those were really good too. And episode 6 gave me like a lot of hope. I'm like, holy shit, this episode was really good. I can't wait to see what this next one brings.
Yeah, and it was a great moment in the game. So, like, when we were watching the episode, I was freaking out because I had forgotten about that moment in the game when they go to the museum. That's one of my favorite parts of that game,
Mhm.
because in the
Mhm.
game you could literally spend an hour walking around to
Yep.
everything and reading everything, and I did, because I love those things in games, because it's very, like, it kind of sucks you in. So
Hmm.
yeah, I was super excited to see that they had done that for sure. So, as somebody who hasn't played the game then as well, so from do you feel like, without knowing, let's say pretend you didn't know that they were a little bit more ruthless, do you kind of get the feeling like that there's some that they've been kind of handcuffed a little bit,
Well, yeah, because
because it is
yeah,
an
it just
interesting
doesn't make
perspective
as
since you
much.
haven't played it, so.
It just doesn't make as much um sense. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we're talking because we were speaking about how Joel was teaching Ellie to be like he was for her survival and stuff like that, and um, then you're talking about then you talked about how, well, yeah, he did that, and he was, because he wasn't a good guy.
Mhm.
We've talked about this before, and I'm like, well, wait a minute, like it seems like he's a pretty damn good guy,
Mhm.
like throughout the like, you know
Right.
what I mean? And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think if they could have done a better job of portraying his brutality from before,
Mhm.
this might have hit a whole lot better. I already think it hit well,
Mhm.
like the end. You know what I mean? When he went in and saved Ellie, I think it would have made that just hit that much harder. And a lot of these things might have started making more sense and stuff like that. But then you wouldn't, like you guys said, you would have had to make Ellie ruthless too. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think that might be some of the issue here, actually.
Okay. All right. All right. You're up, dude.
Uh, yeah, I'd have to. I think you guys are. I think episode 6 is probably the best all around episode.
Mhm.
It's just really really good. And believe it or not, that's the one that's directed by Neil Druckmann. I mean, that's the funniest thing. The guy who directed the game directed the best episode of season 2. But I think
remember, Pedro asked for him to direct it specifically. If you didn't know that,
and I think that's because Pedro understood like it's going to have some of the scenes that were probably the most emotional scenes of the game, some of the best character developments and solidifying their relationships. So episode 6 was really, really good, and I really liked the episode. I mean, that's got Joel's confession to Ellie. That was a powerful scene. A lot of that episode was just really well done from top to bottom. But the one issue I have with that episode, and it's just because the one thing that I liked about The Last of Us, even the way it's portrayed in this TV show and in the game, the first one, was the scene where Joel saves Ellie. Because that's the biggest point of contention a lot of people have. Like, oh, he wants to save her because, he's trying to redeem himself, the loss of his daughter. But at the same time, he's lying to Ellie, and he's basically saying, fuck humanity. So there's the argument of being selfish. There's the argument of lying to Ellie, and that painted that gray area. Like, is Joel really a good guy? Plus, there was a lot of hints in the first game and the second game that Joel was did some dirty ass shit back in the day. We never really got to see a lot of that stuff, but there was enough hints in there to be like, he's seen some shit. He's done some shit, and this guy isn't a saint. But he had to adapt to the times. He started in regular times where he was indicated as a good father, but you go into the infected time period, and he doesn't have a kid to like try to set an example for. You're gonna do what you got to do, and you don't care about nothing. But I always liked the fact that there was that conversation: is Joel a bad guy? And if as a parent, like I think about that situation right there. If one of my kids was in that situation, would I be okay with them dying, just giving them up? And that's a hard decision to make. I'm not going to sit there and say Joel made the right choice. I'm just saying I know that fucking sucked, and that was probably a terrible thing to have to go through. And that gray area, I felt like, was what made Joel and a lot of the other characters in this game so appealing, because it was like we don't really know who the good guys and the bad guys are. There's always that conversation. Skip ahead to episode 6 and the stuff with Eugene. I was really glad they found a way to get Eugene into the show, but that scene where he kills Eugene was a fucking mistake for his character, because there was literally no reason to kill Eugene. Ellie knew that he had plenty of time to go see his wife and then be put down like a dog in front of her. And Joel didn't allow him to have that moment. Joel just said, no, we're going to walk. I promise Ellie, everything's going to be good, girl. Walked him over to a side of a cliff and blew his brains out. Sorry, that now you've pushed Joel into, he's a fucking asshole. Now you've lost the whole, man, I feel bad for Joel. He had to make a tough choice. Now he's a fucking just psychopath. And I feel like that has ruined what Joel was all about. That's ruined what like a lot of these characters are all about. Ellie's going around here killing people, and she's feeling remorseful every time. She feels bad. Ellie doesn't give a fuck in the game because they want her to be more good, just like they need Joel to be more bad. And I can't stand that. That really bummed me out, because it was the ambiguity. The ambiguity of the scene and everything that happened with their characters that made that conversation so good. Now you've made Joel a scumbag, period. He's a scumbag. And now that conversation's gone, which was one of the best parts of that game and that story. But episode 6 was good. I did not like the final episode, even though it set things up. It was rushed horribly. My favorite part was Ellie gets in the boat to go to the aquarium to confront Abby. She gets shipwrecked, comes on shore. There's the scar. They drag her into the woods, go to hang her. They say the village is under attack, and she leaves and gets back in the boat and goes off. I was like, what the fuck was the point of that scene?
They addressed that.
Literally, what the fuck was the point of that scene?
Yeah, they apparently
that motor started right back up.
Right. So in the post of that episode, they touched on that briefly and said that apparently they in the game that was left on the cutting room floor, so they thought, hey, let's add it to the show. Well, it made no sense. It was so dumb.
The only thing I could think of, was because you see that explosion in the background as Ellie's pulling away,
Mhm.
if that's going to be something we're going to get caught up on through Abby's side of things,
Oh,
because
yeah, I'm
Abby's
sure.
not at the aquarium.
Mhm.
So Abby
Clearly.
might be doing something with that attack. And that's where, like, when we explore, because at the end of the episode, we go back in time to Abby back in the city. So we're obviously, we're going back in time again, and we're going to start getting Abby's storyline in the following season. But the way that episode was just so rushed, it was just like, that was probably the most painful episode, honestly, in my opinion. I thought that was one episode I was just like, Jesus. But this one, we could have done something more here for sure.
Mhm.
But that was probably my weakest one. But yeah, 6 is probably the best one. 2 is up there. Other again, but I understand why they did Tommy and the attack on Jackson to help his character out a little bit, but just not a great time for it. He probably could have done that somewhere else. But overall, I mean, most of the episodes were pretty good. But yeah, 6 is the best one.
Yeah, Britta, kind of just touching on that, said that she feels that Joel thinks he's sparing people, but ultimately he's making selfless decisions with Eugene and saving Ellie, which is pretty accurate.
Like the Ellie one, I get. Like I get, yeah, that's absolutely selfish and and clearly not thought out. But the Eugene thing just literally makes no sense.
Yeah,
He could have easily just gone home. I mean, that's beyond selfish. That's just like I'm just here because I want to fucking blow this guy's brains out. I don't know.
Yeah,
I needed I needed more explanation as to why he felt
right.
After Ellie explained he's got time, he can go back and say goodbye to his wife, and then he can kill him right there. Why Joel had to kill that man right there? We didn't get anything. We was just Joel's just like, oh man, it's a nice view, and I'm gonna blow your brains out, and that was it. And I just felt like that was really stupid.
I thought we were going to get kind of a creature change out of Eugene, like just a little bit, where
Well,
he was like controlling his hand to be flatter, and he was further progressed, and then he was going to turn around and like run at Joel, and Joel would have shot him. That would have been more appropriate for the scene, and still would have caused the same drama. But as is, nah.
Yeah. Pork chop out there. Mike says when Ellie went to the Firefly Hospital and found out that Joe killed everyone and realized he lied to her was a big thing that should have been put in the show. So dude is right. Joel killing Eugene like that was also a shit play for him as well. And I look at it a little bit differently. I think while I do agree the ambiguity of the games is what makes it great, it makes me think of The Witcher as well. Like everything in The Witcher, when you get a choice, there's always choices in that game, and it's literally shit in one hand and shit in the other. So no matter what your choice is, it's more it translates real life because it's like it's just how things work, right? And I told dude this today when he's talking about this to me, and it was an interesting perspective that I didn't think about when it came to that. And I think that's because I had made up my mind after the first game that Joel was a piece of shit. So for me, him getting pieced out, and I said this even when we were watching this, and Britt stink eyeing me the entire time, is that it's fucking karma. You know, I hate that. I mean, it is like, I understand like the parents' perspective and stuff like that, which I think is great perspective, but I think both can be true. Right?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
That's all I'm saying. It's like I feel like it's almost one of those things where it's kind of like everybody gets blinded by the fact that I think with his death. So it's like, you got to kind of like either be in this group or that group. And for me, like, while I certainly agree with that, I think that's a great point, but man, at the end of the day, like he's blasting fools like crazy for nothing. And it comes around, and that's kind of what happened. Is it came around, right?
Yeah,
so.
and I just want to preface it by saying, like, I don't think it's like I'm not trying to like gatekeep it by being a parent. Like it's like it's the only reason I can understand it. It's just it's just it was such a point of discussion. That's what I'm saying. Like even if you remove the fact that I'm a parent, I still would have been like, I can understand that, like why he did it. Like I can understand why he did it. Even if I'm not a parent, like he's trying to redeem himself. I mean, who doesn't want to redeem himself? Remove yourself as being a parent. I would love to redeem myself if I ever made a mistake where something happened that I couldn't fix. But at the same time, it's not the right choice. But at least I can be like, man, that's a flawed character. Like I love that struggle, and it's hard for him, and he's trying to live with that at the same time. But by doing the Eugene scene, you just make him a piece of shit. Like it's no
that way.
Yeah, I think it actually ruins like maybe he really did get off just killing everybody in the hospital. Maybe he really just wanted to kill everybody, and that's just who he is. That removes like, he was doing it for Ellie. Now you're just like, now you're just killing people because he's like, I fucking hate hospitals and doctors and shit like
Right.
that. So it was just really weird to add that element to his character that just
He's RFK with a
I thought,
gun.
I mean, dude, imagine a scene though. Imagine if he doesn't do that. Shows a little compassion. He's not a killer, but he still made a weird choice. And then you get Joey Pants and Catherine O'Hara in a good, heartfelt goodbye. I mean, that would have been way better.
Mhm.
I mean, it's just a weird choice. It's just a weird choice, and what could have been so much more meaningful and sad. And it's just, I don't know, man. Like I said, I just thought that was a weak choice.
No, that's fair. Let's see. Mike's got some more good stuff up here. Traveled across the country with her. The Fireflies lied to him about how they were going to make the cure.
Yeah,
And that's what's great about this series, man, is there's a lot of perspective on it, right?
yeah.
But again, like the doctor didn't have what did the doctor do, right? What the doctor do? We got to remember that. What the doctor do?
Doctor's just trying to save the fucking humanity. So I mean, it's just like,
right. Yeah, because again, then we're looking at, then you got to look at it as like 1 versus 100 kind of thing, right? Like, is her life worth really, literally the rest of humanity? If let's say she's ever going to be the only one that's me, I mean, a probability, right? Mathematically, probably not, but like discovering that person in the right, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, so Mike said, would he have taken her in the first place if he knew they were going to kill her? Probably not. So there's a lot going on there. Last one here for Britt, and then we're going to kind of start to wrap it up here. So you could see how conflicted he was killing Eugene, I guess. Maybe to show the internal conflict and him to be brutal and to show compassion, like Ellie making an impact on him. He definitely thought about it a lot, but he thought about it enough to walk him to the edge of that water and blast him anyways.
If he thought about it, it was for a split second because he was walking in a completely different direction.
Right. So I don't know. I guess again, it's all subjective at that point. So I was originally going to ask if we thought that Joel is a bad guy, but I think again, it's so ambiguous. I don't know whether or not. For me, I've made my decision on that.
Yeah.
I think, but I don't know, Josh. Again, if somebody who's not played the game, like, I feel like you've got a different perspective because you haven't seen how the game plays out or anything like that. Like, would you feel Joel's a bad guy?
I mean, well, clearly he is. Like, I mean, even after, like, you guys said the Eugene thing and everything like that, but like, man, I don't know. I was having a hard time thinking he was a complete pile of shit, probably up until that point. You know what I mean? Because it just seemed like there was a lot of good there as well too within him.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we got so much of that perspective that what turned out to be like parental love perspective between him and Ellie. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like I don't know. I get it. You know what I mean? But like, I just think they probably could have done a better job of portraying that. And like the Eugene thing, like it probably would have been cool to kill Eugene in front of her. You know what I mean? Like all of a sudden he's starting to turn, she's saying no, and all of a sudden pop, there it goes. Now you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, because she sees it, like, because whether he's being honest
right.
or all that thing. Yeah, it definitely all around as far as the storytelling. Like, I don't know what they were thinking to push it that route. Like I think dude makes a really good point about that. Honestly, is that it does make it so that you kind of almost getting your decision made for you of leaning that way instead of leaving it more open to interpretation. So awesome. Well, I do want to show a couple graphics here, I think, that are going to be important that we do want to talk about here. So I'm going to bring this one up here real quick.
Don't do anything mean.
What are you talking about? I'm not you, dude. So as you see, I'm going to get a little closer because my eyesight, right? Look at the ratings really jump around.
Wow.
And it's as you can see, the first season, like pretty much a solid across the park, right?
Are you putting that up on the screen? Because it's not up.
No. Of course I am. What are you talking
there
about?
There we go.
What are you talking about? So yeah, it's showing, like, and some people are saying, and I don't know if this is the proper narrative for it, but I do want to come to it, is after episode 2, right? Everything's going on. You got Jackson, and then of course bad stuff are happening, and some of us psychopaths are probably still rating that a high episode, but then you see it drop the last 2. So there's a narrative out there with people, and again, you got to be careful, right? There's a narrative out there that because of Pedro getting pieced out like that, that's why the show has taken a drop in that sense. So I don't know if that's overly valid or true. I do have another infographic I want to show here though too. So
Wow.
just to kind of let's see here. Look at me doing fun stuff here. This is the fun part. This is where the fun begins, right? Let's see. So again, so this is what people are saying out there and talking. So they're, I don't know who this person is. It's just some random person out there, but it's talking about and breaking them down. About killing Joel, episode 2, One Way to Lose Your Audience. The finale pulled in 3.7 million viewers, a 55% drop from the 8.2 million who turned in last time to watch. So the question is, and this goes back to again, trying to pass the torch, as they're saying to Bella here, and having somebody as big as Pedro Pascal be in the show is piecing him out part of the problem. Do we think that actually played a full effect in that? Do we think that, I'm going to go back to Josh's conversation on Let's Set the Tone, and he said that that's why he felt that maybe it would have been better playing a lesser known person as Pedro Pascal. Whereas, dude, I know you say, no, you want to draw people in like that. But like, now that we're seeing it this way, what do you think? Like, do we think these things all correlate? Do we think it's all just kind of bullshit? Like, how do we feel about that?
I
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, and maybe this is me, but I just think Bella Ramsey's Ellie is just an unlikable, unrelatable character, the way she plays that. So, like, we all hung on when Ned Stark got pieced out in Game of Thrones. We all held on for the rest of them because yeah, it's 20 years later. What is it?
Right.
Like, we held on because there were relatable characters that we wanted to know the fate of in that case. And then as that tradition of even up to when the Red Wedding happened, where it was deep in and we were all fans of whoever, and then we had who was left in that Game of Thrones universe, you're still like, yeah, I care about where this story is going. She just didn't drive it, at least for me, where I was like, I don't really even care to finish this, like, I don't know. I didn't care what her character was doing. I liked Dina. I liked the others that were in the show, and where they were going, and they're part of the story. I even liked, the other factions and where that was going. There was some interesting story, like the torture of the guy and all that stuff that happened in the show. But like, when you take Pedro out of that, regardless if it was Pedro or another actor, it's just like, the person you have playing the main character is just not interesting to watch.
Okay. Josh, we know how you feel.
Yeah,
I want to hear it again.
I really think. What's that?
I was joking. I said, I definitely know how you feel, but I definitely want to hear you say it again.
Yeah, you definitely want to hear me say it again. Okay, cool. Yeah, I really think Drassen hits home with that one. I just don't think that the person that they have to. I think she was a great accessory with her and Joel, but I think when it's time to hand over the reins, it's like everyone else seems like they'd be a better story to follow than what she's than what she's doing, at least with her character. And I'd really like to see. I'm curious to see like how many takes there are to some of these scenes. You know what I mean? Especially with the ones where we all kind of talked about how where she just is she even there right now, or is she like does she have a hearing problem maybe, and so she's listening really hard while someone else is doing their scene.
Okay.
I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just it blows my mind. I don't know. It's odd. And I totally agree with dude. I think there's some scenes where she's absolutely great in. I think she
Yeah.
shows anger and frustration really well. I think she's got those moments on lock. But yeah, there's just certain things I just don't think her range is there yet, or maybe there needs to be some work done or something like that.
I'm gonna be a dad.
oh fuck, you were just guessing.
Right.
Set aside from that, trying to like show some form of emotion, and I do feel like she at least attempted to try in that scene. It was definitely like, hey man, they got to the fun stuff real fast out of nowhere. I was like, dang, that's where that's going. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, fair enough. It's lonely on the road, So, all right, Brent.
Yeah, I mean, obviously losing an actor like Pedro Pascal, and honestly, we didn't need just a big name character to play Joe. We needed an actor with the range to play Joe, because Joe is a very complicated complex character. So you need to have somebody who can go everywhere. You need him to have charm. You need him to be angry. You need him to be conflicted. You need him to be sad. You need him to be remorseful. And you got to have an actor that can show all that. So, I mean, yeah, you could have got some no name to play Joel, but that removes a little bit of the weight as well, because not only is Pedro, obviously he's a star, but at the same time, he's also got the range to make the character's death, not just the fact that Pedro's gone. Okay, not just the fact that Pedro's gone, but the fact that Joel is gone. So you got to have somebody who can create that levity to the character to make sure that this is a big loss. Joel had to die where he died, and I have no issue with him going out in the second episode. That's where he had to go. But like going forward, like I know we're all worried about Bella Ramsey. Here's the thing, guys. We're going to find out right now how fans of this game really feel about Caitlin Dever as Abby, because Abby's going to be the focus of the next season. It's not going to be a whole lot of Bella Ramsey. She'll be there for the necessary scenes, but this focus is going to be on Abby. Abby is probably 1B and 1A, but Joel is not even a main character in the overall arching story of part 2. It's about Abby and it's about Ellie. And like I'm really curious to see how Caitlin Dever can pull this off, because Abby is a very, very imposing character. Caitlin Dever isn't a very imposing person. So I'm curious to see if she has the range to make Abby the legitimate threat to Ellie that she is in the game. So that's going to be a huge point. And now Caitlin Dever is a really good actress. She's a really, really good actress. She did a show on Prime that we watched during Fanboytone. We did a review on it where she's, I think she's mute. And there's like an alien invasion going on. Do you remember that show?
Yeah, that was only a couple years ago.
Yeah, and she was really, really good in that. Like, she didn't have any spoken lines, but she's able to convey emotion without any dialogue. So I think they got a good person. It's just going to depend on how well she can do in the next season. Bella Ramsey's going to play a part for sure, but this is going to be all about Abby. So I'm going to be really curious to see how fans of the game react to that when she takes over, because that's where we're going in the next season.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of great on both sides of that argument. I think it's interesting because the numbers could speak to that, right? But it's going to be a gamble either way. Like, had they casted somebody that wasn't Pedro Pascal, that if the writing's good enough, I go back to old shows like True Blood, right? That with a lot of pseudo no name characters, at least for the first reasons, like it was really compelling and hooked a lot of people. And sometimes you can really pull that off, so it's almost like, yeah, it's great we got Pedro to pull him in for the first season, hook everybody and get everybody back in, and then all of a sudden your season 2 just kind of like has abysmal viewership at times because, hey, there's no more Pedro. But again, for me, storytelling, I like storytelling that catches you off guard. Like, I think of books I've read that does that, right? That, and Game of Thrones is always a great example for that, honestly. And it's always good because Game of Thrones, it's all POV writing. So there's always that comparison in that sense, because like, you saw things, and like, you brought up Eddard Stark, like, right? Like, which is a great conversation that I've had numerous times in the last 15 years about that. That was that character's trajectory. He wasn't listening to the right people, and his pride got in the way, and he ended up fucking dead. So here we are, right? And that kind of diverse storytelling is important to me. I do feel like there's a conversation out there to be more had about that in people these days and the way they intake media. And I think, again, as you kind of talked about how they've kind of pushed Joel a little bit farther to be that bad guy, so we don't have all that gray area and people aren't thinking more, because people need to intake easy things now, so it's got to be more cut and dry for them. And it's a shame, because really good true storytelling shouldn't be like that. So I don't know. I think, like I said, I think there's a big conversation to be had about all media when it comes to that. But I do want to show one last graphic just for kicks and giggles to come back around to what I was talking about. This was done in, I want to say 2021, if I'm looking at that right.
Whoops.
I want to point that out. I was saving that for last because we had all kind of mentioned that, or at least talked about that, especially.
They must not have read that article.
I don't think they did. I'm a big variety guy personally, so I read a lot of their articles.
Whoopsie daisy.
So, whoopsie daisy indeed. So awesome. Well, hey, great conversation, guys. I really appreciate you guys all being able to jump in and do this again with me. Certainly enjoy doing these, and the four of us talk all day, every day, constantly anyways, about many things. And I thought this is a good way to kind of get a lot of our thoughts about these shows out, and also some of the folks out here in the chat appreciate those being able to join in and also put their 2 cents into on that. So even if you were somebody like Brittany who was mad at me for like a day because I made her watch that episode, so
I dealt with the same stuff, man.
right. And lastly, before I start doing some of the housekeeping things, if you are watching right now, you definitely are seeing Josh right now at a hotel, and we've already talked about that. It's good that he's sitting in front of the sheets because we're curious on what they probably look like, and many bad stuff's going in there. So don't put a black light if you're working at the hotel and you're watching this as well, which you're probably not. Keep the black light out of there. So, but no,
Is that
thanks,
your
guys.
lotion?
That's got to be. Yeah, that's He goes
Bedside lotion.
He's got travel Jergens. All right, Drastin, where can all the good folks of the world see you?
Well, you can find us at on twitch.com/7dungeons or YouTube at 7dungeons as well for the best homebrew D&D. We are actually off next week. We were off this Monday. We're out this next week because I'm traveling for work, but then we will be back.
Awesome. And then, of course, the one and only half-ass beer review. Josh, tell us where you clearly, is that really lotion back there?
No, it's a lint roller.
Yeah,
it's a lint roller.
Yeah. You push.
There's lotion on the lint roller.
I was cleaning my womb.
What kind of stuff's going on in there? Yeah, he pushes the bed right up next to the mirror and everything. Awesome.
I won't show you the mirror.
Yeah, no, please don't.
Yeah, so you can find me on YouTube mostly at Half-Ass Beer Review, or Instagram too, when life's not kicking me in the teeth or sending me new places to learn a new life skill. You can find beer reviews, beer talks, beer quests with my friends on the show here, and doing all sorts of beer-related stuff.
Good. Awesome. And yeah, I've helped him get over 1,000 subs, so it's really exciting. So dude, want to tell folks what you've been doing recently when you've got time to stream, because you've got quite a busy life right now.
Dude, I was gonna say you can find me offline right now. That's where I'm at. I'm offline. No, I'm just trying to keep up with the kids' sports stuff. So I do plan to continue streaming Expedition 33 as soon as I'm able to find some time. I only have 1.5 weeks left of baseball, and then my summer completely opens up until football. But I'll be back live at some point. Hopefully, maybe this weekend I can get a day in, but it's so damn hard right now. But I appreciate those of you that have been watching the Expedition 33 playthroughs on YouTube, or if you're able to tune in live on TikTok or Twitch, wherever you do watch it. So really appreciate your support there. And yes, eventually we will get back to streaming that, because Drastin keeps telling me, you haven't beaten it yet? I want to talk to you about stuff, but I can't because you haven't beaten it. So I'm trying to get it done so we can talk about it.
Game of the decade.
He's a big fan too. So and then for me, of course, this right here, doing Let's Set the Tones and World According to Tones and whatever comes swinging in my way. I'm trying to put out as much damn content as I possibly can now that I have the ability to do that. So continue to tune on and watch for all that, or tune in for that. So I did make some updates this week for my Outpost 93J world building on Instagram this week. Finally got some movement there. It's been great. I got some new figures in, been taking pictures and putting them all over the interwebs as well. But far as us, I had a great conversation with El Blanco this last Sunday on Let's Set the Tone. My first time doing a remote Let's Set the Tone with a one-on-one hot seat discussion. He ran through the gauntlet of questions that I tossed at him. Was a great conversation. We've known him for years. He's been a big supporter of B&B. Please get a chance to watch that. He's a great guy. He's been a good friend over the last few years. He's super nerd about a lot of things. It was a lot of fun to kind of be able to do that with him. So now that I have that ability, I can't wait to kind of makes my guest list a little bit longer. So as far as this week, I don't know that I have anything planned. I might do a World According to Tone stream sometime here this week and do some paint. I got some things I need to get done. This entire table is a mess over here, of course. So I need to get my ass onto something. But other than that, all of us, hopefully we can get dressing up here. But make sure August 16th, that Saturday, come to the Great Lakes Beer Festival, B&B Half-Ass Beer Review. We're going to be doing content there, streaming, recording. Can't wait for it. Thank you to them to letting us be involved. I'm super stoked. Hopefully we get some content out there soon, kind of like previewing and promoting as well. If you haven't seen the chili cook-off video with me and Josh eating copious amounts of chili, definitely make sure to check it out on Half-Ass Beer Reviews YouTube. It's pretty awesome video. So but again, hey, that's gonna do it for us. Thank you guys for coming on. Thank you for once again hanging out and getting in these discussions. It's always fun to do this. I mean, like I said, we talk all the time anyways, but it's fun to have everybody else kind of jump in as well. So with that being said, I definitely hope everybody has a fantastic week and plan to see you all real soon. See ya.